let me review quickly our format. And each of our candidates will have 3 minutes in which to make an introductory statement. And the order of that has been determined by lot just a little bit ago. And that will be Andrea DeMott first and Kent Butler will be second. And then we will have questions from the news media, whom, why don't we just introduce them right now? From your left to right, why we have Rachel Snively of the Post and Sarah Brumfield of the Athens Messenger, David DeWitt of the Athens News, and Fred Kite of WOUB. And we will have, that's not the order in which the questions will come, and each of them will ask a question, and candidates then will have 1.5 minutes to respond to those. We'll have 2 rounds of questions from the news media, and then we will turn to questions from you audience members, which we'll filter through here to try to make sure they're answerable by both candidates and don't repeat one we just had, etc. And so then we will go ahead with questions from the audience, and at the end we will have a 2-minute closing statement from each of our candidates. And in this day and age of, shall we say, institutions close occasionally, why the library closes at 8, so we're going to try to be through 73.5 minutes from now, let's say, so that Todd and the library staff can hustle us out the door by the closing time. So with that, why, let's turn to our candidates for First Ward City Council in Athens, First Ward being the West Side. And Andrea DeMott, you're first for the 3-minute statement.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me? No? How about now?
Actually, that's me. You'll want one of the other mics to get the PA to work, and I don't know what that deal is.
Do you know,
Okay.
Ellsworth, is this a PA mic?
Yeah,
Or is
okay,
this-
that's it.
There you go.
Do I just speak into this or?
I think so. So maybe you'll want to stand.
Okay,
Whatever. Or take
no
it
problem.
off.
All right, how's that? Okay, can I start over now?
Yes, indeed. So the timekeeper is only now going to click.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. It's a pleasure to see so many people out here just to hear us speak. And I'm very proud to be living in a town where so many people are so engaged with the future of our community. So thank you. My name is Andrea DeMott. I am a long-term resident of Athens. I've been here over 22 years at this point, hard to believe, and I have lived for more than 6 on the west side. I live on Blick Avenue, which is far, far west, beyond the fairgrounds, a little side street off of West Union. I also have investments in my neighborhood, and I take great pride in the area of town that I live in. And that's part of what brings me here tonight. Like I said, along with many of the people who also live in our neighborhood, we love where we live, but I think over the past couple of years, we have been seeing big changes, and I don't think that they have been going in the right direction. I feel that I had been hoping for progress at the last election, and it didn't materialize. So that's what brings me here tonight. That's what made me step up to the plate. And as I have been having the opportunity to speak to other residents of the First Ward, I have heard the same sentiments echoed over and over again. Our neighborhoods are deteriorating, and we don't like it. We don't like the contention between students and residents on the west side. And we're tired of the fact that the city government doesn't seem to focus enough attention on these issues. And that's what I would like to try to do something about with your support. I have spent a lot of time talking to city officials over the past couple of years trying to solve problems, and I've gotten a lot of shoulder shrugging from them. You live on the west side. Where do you think you are? However, I don't think it has to be that way. We want vibrant neighborhoods on the west side of Athens, and I am hoping that we can get together and have it be that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Next will be Kent Butler.
Hey everyone, it's nice to see you here this evening as well. I was worried that I might be a little bit late because, like a typical boy, I was struggling to find a pair of socks that match. So, but I think I prevailed. Again, similar to Andrew, I want to say that I'm grateful for the opportunity to have served on council for the past 2 years. So it's nice to see you all here tonight supporting us and this process as well. I'd like to thank my friends and fellow Athenians for their support and patience. Most importantly, I also want to thank my wife, Lori, and I'm glad she's here tonight supporting me. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring the event tonight, and the library as well for hosting us. I think this is a viable part of our community here. I also think at this moment I would be remiss in to not say thank you to my colleagues on council, as well as the mayor and the department heads, the law director, his office, the auditor, her office. It's terribly obvious to me, and I'm sincere in saying this, that these people care very much about their community, and I'm glad to be a part of that group. Other than that, again, I'm looking forward to this evening. I'm a little nervous, I have to admit, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve the community and glad to be here. I've been a West Sider for, well, I've lived in Athens for 20 years, and my wife and I purchased our house, I think about 14 years ago, and we reinvested by building a new house to us on the west side, so we're there. Thanks.
Thank you both. Now we'll turn to questions from the news media, and let's just review that Fred, you'll have the first question, then Sarah, then David, and then Rachel, in that order. And Andrea, you'll get to answer the first one as a result of that original coin toss, random process, I should say. So Fred, with Andrea to respond first.
Yes, thank you. A favor to ask, please, candidates, if you could stay seated
Sure.
while you respond, because my microphones are there on the table and I want to get you, sorry. You can do what you want with the PA mic, but I kind of need my mics close by in your replies, if you don't mind. Ms. DeMott, if you would please elaborate on some of the points that you made in your opening statement. You talked about changes. You talked about these changes going in the wrong direction. What changes are going in the wrong direction? You talked about things deteriorating. What things are deteriorating? And let's just focus on those two items. And once you identify those problems more specifically, if you could talk about your proposed solutions for those, please.
Okay. And I have a minute and a half for this reply?
Right.
Okay. Real briefly, we have had a doubling of our density on our street. I live on a very small one-lane street, and the number of houses have been increased by a factor of 2 in the past 2 years. I think this was done without adequate planning for the infrastructure that needs to be there for all those houses to go in. And I've heard similar complaints from other residents, and also complaints about blighted properties. Dilapidated, empty, or overcrowded. I think we've probably all seen these in neighborhoods on the west side. My proposed solutions would be to simply start looking at these issues more than we have been, because I don't think that this is one of the foremost issues that City Council is looking at the moment, and I would like it to become that.
Thank you. If I may tweak my question just a little bit for Mr. Butler and ask him if he believes that those are in fact problems in the ward and what your proposed solutions would be if you do feel that there are problems in those areas that she mentioned.
Sure, thanks, Fred. I do see that there are some concerns in all of Athens, as well as specifically the west side, regarding density. And it's been a challenge that we've been encountering with living in a community with the university present in a small town. And I could see the challenge for some of the developers who have questioned where to build, what to do, how to do this process appropriately. But I guess my thoughts on this would be that we have a city planner now, and he's a bright, capable man, and I've enjoyed working with him and getting to know him in my work on council. And some of the discussions that he and I have had, and I spoke briefly with him about this, is out west in Colorado, some of the challenges that they face in ski towns where there's a need for affordable housing. So the city and the community has worked together to create methods and financing to be proactive in that process, to create affordable housing, to create smart housing density that's not overwhelming. So I guess my best answer on this is that I would seek guidance from the planner, work with him, work with the mayor on this process. Thank you.
Okay, for the next round of questions, Kent, you will answer first, and Andrea second, and we turn to Sarah Brumfield for that.
Okay, my question is, as you've been out talking to people in the first ward, what seems to be the biggest concern of your constituents or soon-to-be constituents?
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you. So to reiterate, the biggest concerns from constituents on the west side, really simply litter and noise, and those are very paramount issues. So again, that's something that I think that the mayor is aware of. I don't know if there's necessarily legislative action that can take place per se. We have a police chief who is diligently tackling this issue, especially the noise. And we just hired, the mayor is here this evening, but I believe I'm aware that we did hire a new litter control officer. So hopefully these are going to be issues that are going to be tackled. And again, this is my thoughts on some of these issues is that it's the executive branch responsibility. I don't know if there's necessarily more legislation that needs to be implemented, but these are issues that I'm hearing from the west side, and I will do my part to advocate for those issues with the administration. Thank you.
Andrea?
Okay, like I said, my impression that the biggest concern that I've heard from so many other residents of the west side is that our neighborhoods are being allowed to fall down around our ears recently. I think that yes, litter is a big problem, and yes, noise is a big problem as well. But these are just symptoms of the blighted properties and the lack of attention to standards for neighborhood identities, I think. That is something that really needs to be looked at. I think that the Planning Commission is looking into this. They are making headway on this issue, and it's something that I hope to see continue. But fixing the litter and fixing the noise is not going to solve the problem if the root issue is not addressed. And that is, I think, absentee property owners and inadequately maintained properties.
Thank you. For our next question then, Andrea, you will answer it first, and we turn to David DeWitt for that one.
Thank you. My question is with regard to zoning in the first ward. There's over the years been some issues raised regarding the business zoning in the area, especially as it relates to liquor establishments. And I was wondering how you'll respond to concerns that are raised about that issue and your overall satisfaction with the zoning as it currently is, if there's any changes you would want to make, that type of stuff.
Fortunately, I live just down the street from what used to be the Lucky Dog. And I'm not entirely sure what's going on with their liquor license. I think it's temporarily at the Kroger. But there doesn't seem to be a big rush to put in liquor-related businesses that I can see. I think, unfortunately, I don't really know enough about this issue to be able to give a really smart answer to it right now. But I am hoping that if the issue did come up, this is something that I would apply my prodigious research skills to and find out more.
Thank you. I think similar to my opponent, I would want to do more research on this as well. I do work in the field of alcohol and drug addiction, and know this is a pervasive challenge that our community faces. So I guess I'll just leave it at that at the moment, and I would like to do more research on it before I give an answer. Other than, again, I think we'll leave it at that. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, thank you both. And Kate, you will address the next question first, and for that question, we turn to Rachel Snively, the host.
Yeah, I was just wondering how you plan to help ease contentions between permanent residents of Athens and the students of Ohio University.
Ease contentions?
Yeah.
Okay. Between students and?
The permanent residents of Athens.
Thank you. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Again, this is interesting because having attended Ohio University in the late 80s and being very naive as to what my role in the community at that time meant, because I was a student and I was engrossed with being a student and didn't really consider the fact that I was in a community, that there was other things happening. I was drawn to Athens because of the community, because of the quaintness, because of Court Street and the beauty of small-town America and family-owned businesses. I liked that. I liked that I didn't have to get into a car and drive everywhere, that I could get places by foot and by bicycle. I do feel that I have perhaps a better pulse or sense of the pulse of student issues than my opponent, because my wife and I have been heavily involved with club sports at the university, so we've coached and mentored and remained in touch with students along the way. And it's interesting to hear their take on things as well. I think the students at the university, I don't think we give them enough credit sometimes, because I think many of them are engaged and involved in community and volunteering. So again, this issue, I think, requires a lot of attention, and the benefit of the university working hand in hand with the city government will ultimately lead to better solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kip. Andrea.
Just like Kent said, this is a very difficult question to answer. And again, having a minute and a half, I'll do my best. However, I think that a lot of the issues in our neighborhoods in the First Ward are related to housing. And I think it's probably something that we can all agree on, that most of the short-term residents of our neighborhoods tend to be students. And I think that puts them at a disadvantage when they are living in properties that are not sufficiently maintained, and they are paying their rent to property owners who take those monies out of the neighborhoods. And they don't really have any incentive for keeping up their places as long as they can continue to rake in the rent. I don't want to unfairly categorize landlords. Heck, I'm a landlord myself, but I'm a good one. So I think that when we begin to address some of those issues, some of the tensions that ultimately result, and I don't think are easy to avoid, might start to go away.
Thank you. No, sir. You have
No follow-ups?
a minute and a half.
Okay, I'll
So,
answer it again later.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right.
And so now we will turn for the next round. Andrea, you will address it first, and Fred Kite, you're on for a question.
Yes, my question is simply this: what do you have to offer as a candidate that makes you a better candidate than your opponent, please?
I don't necessarily think that this makes me a better candidate than my opponent. I would hate to start complimenting myself at someone else's expense. However, I think that I bring a couple of qualities to this position that I think are very much needed. I think I bring tenacity. If you've ever had a bulldog and had them bite a rope, and then you can swing the bulldog and the rope around your head at 100 miles an hour, and the brute will never let go. Well, that's me. Okay, I'm tough. I'm a fighter, and I also, I think, have a very well developed sense of justice. When I see things that are happening that shouldn't, I tend to go after them. And I think that's what makes me an outstanding candidate for this ward.
Kim?
Don't start the timer yet. Set, go. Okay, so I want to finish answering Rachel's comment real quick because I think it was a good one. I just will acknowledge real quick the off-campus student housing has been a really integral part of helping, I think, ease the relationship or helping enhance the relationship. They've been attending a lot of the neighborhood association meetings, and they should be applauded for that. So, thanks. And Fred, thank you for your patience on that. Regarding your question, what makes me, what do I have to offer that makes me a better candidate? And again, I appreciate Andrea's comment on that as well too, and her strengths. And I think it's important. It's awkward to acknowledge one's strengths when you're sitting up here in front of friends and some strangers as well, but without trying to sound cocky or arrogant. I think that my experience on council is beneficial in this case. And I'm thinking of a quote that I heard from Mayor Abel, and I think our current mayor alluded to this as well. Mayor Abel told me one time, and I appreciated his sincerity in saying this, that it took him a whole first term of being mayor to truly understand and comprehend what that means. And he said it took him at least 1 or 2 terms into being a council member to understand the politics, the dynamics of being on city council. So I would say that my 2 terms of the experience that I have from that is beneficial, and it takes time to truly understand the dynamics and develop rapport with fellow officials and the elected officials on council and the mayor's administration. I've worked hard to establish that rapport. Thank you.
Thank you both. And the next round of questions, Ken, you will address this one first, and we turn to Sarah Blumfield.
Fred took my question.
Yeah.
So I guess we've talked about some of the things that need improved on the west side. What would you say is your favorite part of living on the west side?
That's a great question. The west side is awesome. It is. It's beautiful. It has hills. I was just thinking that today. Went for a run today and I was on the bike trail. And it's beautiful. I was just taking in the beauty of Athens and just smiling the whole time. I went for about a 4-mile run. I'm so close to the bike trail that I am terribly grateful that it's there and it's a part of our community. I was marveling in the buds that were opening up and the daffodils and the wildlife. I truly enjoy being on the west side. There's also the energy of the people. The west siders are a tough, diligent, hard-headed group, but that's because they believe in things that are important to them, and they're willing to communicate that and acknowledge it. West Side historically has a lot of interesting characteristics and dynamics as well. I would also add perhaps that, let's see. Well, I really like the view from the second floor of my house. Thanks.
I think we all know that the east side is where all the professors live, right? So I think the west side enjoys much greater diversity. And it also, I think the neighborhoods have their own character, and that's something that I want to see preserved. I also have the privilege of living within walking distance of the bike path, and boy, do I enjoy that. I'm out there pretty often, and that and many other opportunities for recreation are just a few of the advantages that we have on the west side. However, in the past couple of months, right above where I live, another hillside has come down. Seemingly overnight, they put up a whole bunch of 3- or 4-story buildings at University Estates, which are now obvious on the skyline as one heads north on 682 from the roundabout. I was astonished that these went up with no fanfare whatsoever. No one even seemed to notice that another one of our vistas just went away. Thank you.
Thank you both. And for the next question, Andrea, you'll address it first, and we will turn it over to you.
Thank you. In the governor's latest budget proposal, he eliminates local government monies by 50% over the next 2 years, which is $400,000 for Athens. Is that right? Around there, I think. So my question is to you, where would you be willing to see cuts in the city budget, and where absolutely must not be cut, as far as you're concerned?
I think the one thing that we cannot do is allow ourselves to resort to short-term solutions in the way that we continue to develop Athens and to remedy the problems that are cropping up in our neighborhoods. I think that this is such an immense question, and this is something that is going to require so much study that I would have to say I don't think any sector is going to be invulnerable because I think these are probably some of the biggest budget cuts that we've ever seen, and there is going to be so much study and so much concern, and eventually we're going to have to rely on the experts who are already spending so much time considering this question. I don't think I can answer that right now.
Thank you. Kent?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm terribly disappointed with our governor's leadership at the state level. And those of us on council recently expressed some of that concern with our dislike of the Senate Bill 5 and that direction. I don't have a lot of faith in their leadership, and I'm grateful that we do have a president with a good head on his shoulder at the federal level. But regarding the state level and the impact it's going to have on the city, it's already something we've seen. The auditor has been kept us up to date over the years with the amount of money we see each year for an impact fee. So that's one of the arguments that I've made in encouraging the university to take a bigger leadership role with the fire truck purchase for a ladder truck, because we're seeing less money from the state. It's a reality that we're living in. And that impact fee that the state has given university towns continues to diminish. Every year it's it's becoming smaller and smaller. The university is exempt from property tax. And so we see less money coming in because of this. So I think the tough questions to ask as a community, obviously, it falls upon us at the local level to determine what cost of living, what type of. The local level, we have to consider what we want as a community and what we're willing to invest. Thank you. But I would add that we have to ask tough questions to consider the potential for taxes, increase in taxes, to compensate. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the next round of questions, Kent, you will address it first, and we turn to Rachel for that one.
Andrea, in your opening statement, you mentioned that there was progress you had hoped for the last election that had not been materialized. So my question is for Kent, what have you done in the past couple of years in your term, to help Athens? And Andrea, what was it that you did not see happen?
Sure, thanks. Well, I think I've worked hard. What I was stammering on my words about was trying to get this idea out of quality of life. And I think we have a really nice, beneficial, we have a good quality of life here in Athens, and I think we have to continue to consider how we want to enhance that quality of life. I've worked hard on City Council, specifically as chair of Arts, Parks, and Recreation, to enhance Athens. Some of the subtle things include we'll Boogie on the Bricks. Some of the ordinances I've sponsored in the past, and I think Boogie on the Bricks is a good example of bringing community together. The annual cruise-ins that we have on Court and Union. I've supported the International Street Fair, measures for safety at Halloween. A very challenging yet touching issue would be the memorial bench for the Birth Circle at Sells Park. Taking time to listen to our community members. The West State Canoe Access Ramp, the NatureWorks grants to enhance our public recreation purposes. I've also supported a lot of initiatives that have come through by Member Gosney that are environmentally minded. These are some of the things I've supported in the past and would like to continue to work specifically in the arts with the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study. This is a study that is going to benefit looking at how the impact of the arts is going to have on our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea?
I had hoped that the opposite would happen of what I've been seeing. And there seems to be a tendency, as long as requests for variances made by developers or absentee property owners are not officially prohibited, I'm afraid that they tend to get rubber stamped by the administration at the moment. I think that's certainly what happened in our neighborhood. As long as what the property changes, as long as they are not expressly prohibited by the regulations, then we don't seem to see any reason to prevent them, even if they defy all common sense. And I'm hoping that there's a way to change that and to make sure that property development, property maintenance doesn't just follow the letter of the law, but it follows the spirit of the law as well. Thank you.
Thank you both, and thank you for those questions, members of the news media. And now we turn to those questions from you audience members. And so, let's see, for this one, Andrea, you will address it first. How would you improve the enforcement of the code on trash and litter?
I think I would rejoice that we now have a new litter control officer, or as far as I understand it, we do. And I think that is going to contribute a lot of improvement in that area. What else could we do? I'm afraid I'd have to get there first in order to be able to answer that question. So I'll have to pass to my more experienced colleague.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks. How would I improve the enforcement on trash and litter? Well, I'm not the mayor, but I do have a couple ideas. One might be to increase the fee for citations. That might be something that could occur. I have spoke with a code director in the city of Burlington, Vermont, and one of the things that he shared was that they substantially increase the amount of money that they charge people for noise ordinances and for violations of their code. So that would be one possibility, would be to have the deterrent be financial. Obviously, you attract more bees with honey than with vinegar, so there could be also some positive incentives, which I think the off-campus student housing was trying to accomplish by incentivizing people keeping their yards clean. Thank you.
Thank you both. And for the next question, Kent, you'll address this one first. Given the health hazards of chickens, what will you do to keep chickens out of the city?
All right. Well, I'm not a scientist. And the health hazards of chickens can vary in some of the research that I've done. Histoplasmosis is, I think, perhaps one of the concerns that some people have in the community about chickens. In health officials that I've spoke with, one of which works at Walter Reed Hospital, he indicated that histoplasmosis is not as fear-inducing or problematic as society likes to think it is. At the moment, chickens are allowed within the city of Athens, although I do support the mayor on this, that we don't have proper animal control in Athens. We have dogs that are running around. We have a lot of cats. We have good people in the community that have made efforts to spade and neuter animals that are strays. So I do support the mayor's concerns on this, which was that we don't have proper animal control yet to consider really any changes with chickens at this time. So that's my best answer at the moment. We need a little bit better animal control before I would be considering moving forward with any other legislation regarding chickens. Thanks.
Andrea?
I think when it comes to vote, I would simply vote no. And I would try to get that issue tabled as quickly as possible, because I think it should not be in the forefront of the problems that we're trying to address on the west side. I think that most of us who live within city limits aren't living here because we want to live on a farm. I know there are some people, and more power to them, who want to explore raising chickens, but I don't think we should be spending so much time on this issue. I think we should devote our government resources to more important matters.
Thank you. For our next question, Andrea, you will address this one first. The West Side is seeing a serious increase in crime, including 2 assault robberies last weekend. What legislation can address this problem for the city? And I will underline the question says legislation. What legislation can address this problem for the city?
I think that some of the things that are already being done, we now have better surveillance. Surveillance cameras are now in use, as far as I know. And our new police chief is probably going to be the person to weigh in on this question. I don't know what legislation would be the most helpful on this issue. But hopefully, given the opportunity, I will learn.
Thanks.
Ken?
Well, it's disheartening to hear that any type of crime or assaults are taking place in our community, and that's of grave concern to me, and I'm saddened to hear about it. I have, in speaking with people in the community, there's been, and at the West Side Neighborhood Association, there has been discussion about a neighborhood watch, and I think that might be something as well, too, to reinvestigate, direct our attention and energy into. I would also seek guidance, I think, from the police chief, definitely as well. Chief Pyle is a bright man and invested in our community. Perhaps legislatively, we might look at hiring more police officers and supporting legislation that would lead to the pursuit of a bigger department. I also would encourage us to consider putting police officers on a beat, so walking through our community and our neighborhoods the way they used to back in the day, or as the kids like to say, back in a day. I think it's important to get outside of a cruiser. Something else I've considered supporting would be either getting our police officers on bicycles or on motorcycles. I think when you're on a motorcycle, they're more affordable, and you're outside of, you're in the community, you're in the air, you're in the open air. When you have a motorcycle helmet on, you can still hear, you can still see, and you can smell. So when you're in a cruiser, you're not able to see and hear these things as readily. So I would support that as a possible legislative route. Thank you.
Thank you both. The next question, Kent, you'll address it first. This is on the topic of affordable housing. What can be done to make available affordable low-income housing in order to keep local residents local?
Thank you. Earlier, I alluded to some of this, but affordable housing is definitely a challenge in our community. And I think there's a lot of different ways to tackle it. Again, I would use the resources of the planner, the city planner, to consider some best practices with this. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of information on the internet that would guide us and aid us in looking at this process. It's sad when communities lose their youth that move away. I think I've read somewhere statistically that Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is one of the best cities in keeping their people in the community instead of graduating and leaving and moving on. Obviously, we could probably tackle some of the methods that they've used to do that. As far as affordable housing, I think some of the smart growth and smart shrink that's been taking place in Akron and Youngstown would be worth investigating. They've been looking at how to make the communities smaller where you have blighted areas and tearing down housing, as well as looking at smart growth. I think Akron, Paul, the planner, and I, Paul Logue, were looking at some of the work that the city of Akron has done with local banks and making affordable down payments so that there's sort of like a revolving fund there to make it more accessible to purchase homes within our community. Again, our communities are our strengths, and I would love to support them and hope to have that opportunity as we move forward here. Thanks.
Andrea?
I think this is called punting, but I have read recently that according to the most recent census figures, Athens has been growing for the past year at least, and it's the neighboring communities that are losing population. What does this have to do with low-income housing? Are we adequately supplied with it, or do we need more? I think possibly the census figures contradict the idea that we need to be doing more to support affordable low-income housing. I think we might already have enough of it. Again, this is something that I could certainly find out more about, but I think it might not be that big of a problem.
Thank you, Andrea. The next question you will address first, Andrea, and then Kent. This one has to do with economic development. What would you do to encourage economic development to help create jobs that we desperately need?
I think we are so I think we are so lucky to have so many programs in our area already that are focusing on economic development. I'm thinking in particular about the small business support that is occurring, for example, at AceNet. I am a foodie by nature, and I really like the work that is going into the 30-mile meal programs. And I think that as long as we continue on this path, and make sure that we try to keep business local and focus on supporting local entrepreneurs, I think we are headed in the right direction. Thank you.
Kent?
This is a very challenging question again for a legislator, because I think it's that fuzzy area between what is the role and responsibility of government versus the private sector. And I've had similar conversations with some of you in the crowd. I think as a government, we should do what we can to try to incentivize bringing people here as far as business owners and creating opportunity. The mayor and I have had some discussions about how to do that. I've also had discussions with, specifically I was thinking of Craig, who owns Frog Ranch Salsa. He would love to have a pickle factory here in Athens, and it's something he's really looking into. He'd love to have the space. That would be a huge benefit, again, similar to the 30-mile food and keeping jobs here locally. Something that comes to my mind, too, is Debbie Phillips has been working really hard at the state level in supporting green jobs and green initiatives. And I think that that's a huge market that still, even in our tough, difficult economy, is something that we should try to draw and attract here. We have an educated student population here at the university. And I think that, again, working with the university closely on this, and Todd Shelton at his office, trying to determine ways to make more opportunity here locally. We have a beautiful community, we really do, and it would be wonderful to have people staying here and creating more opportunity and jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Kent. The next question touches on the noise. Do you support or oppose the students' proposed changes to the city's noise ordinance? If you oppose, would you be in support of a compromise?
Bless the students' hearts, but I think they're off on this one. And so I am completely content with where we're at right now with the chief's understanding of interpreting noise as is, and trying to work hard to get a grip and get a handle on our communities. I think the noise issue's been a very challenging one. I've a number of evenings I've made efforts to seek out where noise is coming from in our community. I've walked around trying to just have face-to-face conversations, whether it was bongo drums, whether it was a barking dog, banjo playing. I don't mind these things occurring in our communities, but within reasonable hours. So I think that, again, I support Chief Pyle and the mayor on this one, and I think that, unfortunately, I disagree with where the student direction is going. I applaud their efforts in trying to do so in that manner through our democracy, but I don't support the direction that they're heading with their wishes. Thank you.
Andrea?
Could I ask you to repeat the question?
You certainly may. Do you support or oppose the students' proposed changes to the city's noise ordinance? And if you oppose it, would you be in support of a compromise?
Okay. I think this issue is becoming overblown, and especially as a students versus town issue, because the more I've been hearing about it, the more I hear that, yes, there are some students who want to put the ordinance to a referendum. But I also hear that it's not the residents calling the police when noise disturbances are taking place. I've heard that it's just as many of the other students who are taking advantage of the noise ordinance to ensure their peace and quiet as it is residents. So I don't like the divisiveness that this issue has brought up. And I also support the police chief's very well-reasoned approach to it. And if he is in favor of a compromise, I am too, but I don't think it's going to get overturned.
This next question is fairly similar, and so we're going to hear it because my panel out here sent it to me in their thoughtful wisdom. So,
we're to the bottom of our pile.
So here we go. And if this has to do with noise pollution, and it says what specific actions, and let's see, this will be Andrea addressing this one first, won't it? What specific actions will you take to reduce the noise pollution in the west side? I'll emphasize the key words that led them to send it. What specific actions will reduce the noise pollution on the west side? Okay, Andrea.
Well, it sounds like we will have legal remedies for noise pollution. And beyond that, I think once the residents of a neighborhood are fully invested in it, they're not going to take as much action to disturb their neighbors. And I think making our neighborhoods vibrant places to live in and places that we can all take pride in and be happy in is going to also make that problem a little bit less pressing, because once people are feel like they have an investment in the neighborhood that they are living in, they will be less likely to disturb their neighbors.
Thank you. Kent?
Well, again, on this, the noise pollution it's definitely an issue, and we're hearing it again tonight. So specifically, I do support, as I mentioned earlier, I support the police chief on this and his efforts to keep to hold the law. Really, and I might disagree with my opponent on this one, with Andrew on this one, that I don't necessarily think it's divisive that it's between students and residents. I think it's people who make noise. So those people can be anyone. It can be any person. It doesn't necessarily have to be a student or a non-student. I mean, this is an issue that is important to West Siders, and it's a quality of life issue. One thought again too is incentivizing, referring to a previous question, but it would be to incentivize the purchase of housing, affordable housing, and developing methods to make that possible so that we do have people invested in our community and living within the West Side that are homeowners and caring about the quality of life that exists there. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you can see that my team here gave a superior job on that one. I've got one more here before I need some more. So this has to do with empty and dilapidated housing. And let's see, Kent, you'll address this one first.
Okay.
What will you do to improve the system of condemning and tearing down empty or dilapidated houses?
To condemning or
Dilapidated. Whoops.
Or tearing
Pardon me.
down. Okay.
Condemning or tearing down empty and dilapidated housing.
Well, since I do live on the West Side and I walk and ride my bike throughout the neighborhoods, I'm aware that it is an issue, that we do have some homes that have not been kept up. I do support the CDGB money that has come through and the efforts that the mayor has enacted in trying to again, communicate that that money is available for people who want to fix up their homes, whether it's painting exterior or aiding people in first-time home buying. Again, I would have to do a little bit more research on this, but I do know it's something that the mayor has started to look at as well, too. If you ever walked around with him in the community, you've seen he often has a camera with him, and he's taking pictures of our community and homes that are under disarray. So again, any efforts we can make as a community to enhance how pretty, how beautiful they are, I think is worthwhile. And I would have to do a little bit more research on this to become a little better informed. Thanks.
You're welcome. Andrea?
I hesitate to admit that I don't actually know what the process is for condemning and or tearing down houses. That's something that I would have to learn more about. But if Mayor Weil is working on letting us know that the funds are available to take advantage of, the funds are ready to be taken advantage of, and this is a process that is already in place and can be used, then again, I think that is heading in the right direction, and I would just like to see more of it happening. I have never actually seen our mayor walking around with the camera. I think that's probably because I don't live close enough to him, but aren't we lucky to have a mayor that does that? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that seems to be the end of the questions from the audience. We had a lot of good ones from our panel and from the audience. And then there's always a chance that I forget the closing statements when we get to this point in the program. A significant chance, but I haven't forgotten at this instant, I think. And Andrea, you have 2 minutes with the first closing statement, and then Kent will be yours. So closing statement, Andrea DeMont.
Okay, I would like to share my experience of first getting involved with our city government when I first decided that our neighborhood needed some more attention than it was getting. I looked up on the city's website, and I discovered that city council meetings were held, when they were held, where they were held. And this was, of course, a couple of years ago before I started causing so much trouble. But I decided to go to the next scheduled city council meeting when I discovered when and where they were being held. And then I stood outside the city building for at least 20 minutes after the city council meeting was purported to start, feeling like an absolute fool, wondering why I was the only one there and what had happened to the city council meeting. Later on, I spoke in passing to someone who I knew was a city council member who told me, oh, well, we're always in recess in August. I didn't know that. The website didn't say that. So I think that my focus, if I managed to make it to city council, would be to try to keep open, accessible government. I want to listen to the citizens of the West Side and to make sure the channels are open in both directions. I have seen so much good grassroots organization from the residents of the West Side. I think there are going to be abundant ideas of what we can do differently, and I just hope to work together, given the opportunity, on implementing those. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Kent Butler.
Thank you. I guess I'll stand. Well, I was quite comfortable in my chair there. I'll just be very brief in saying that, again, thank you for showing up this evening, and thank you for your support. And it was nice to see all of you this evening, even the media. That's supposed to be a joke. I'll have to work on my jokes, I guess. I didn't tell you what my best side was, did I? So we'll talk about that later. Again, thank you, and I just want to say that I appreciate the opportunity that I have had to serve the West Side for the past 2 terms, and it's no easy task for sure, and it takes a lot of patience and energy, and I've been grateful for that opportunity. I hope to continue to serve the city of Athens and representing the First Ward to the best of my ability. I am eager to give back to my community. I work for a nonprofit organization. I don't get paid very much money, but I know that I don't do it for the money. I do it because it's where my heart is, and it's a way to give back to my community. So I'm hoping to continue to work for you, West Siders. I can't do what Ed can do with the hand thing and making the W, but maybe he'll teach me in time here. So, again, thank you for letting me serve you these first 2 terms here, and I am hopeful to continue to serve to enhance the quality of life for West Siders. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, candidates. And Todd, you were out of the room when some thanks were given at the beginning. And is there anybody else from Todd is on the library staff here and a big enabler of this evening? Anybody else on your staff here working with us to introduce?
Dave, the sound man.
And let me thank Debbie Schmeeding for being timekeeper, Carol Patterson, and Jean Dravenstedt. And Ed Baum, no one thanked you yet for chairing this evening, so you organized this all. Thank you very much. And of course, you have to have about 10 seconds from me. Think how many places in the world who are, if we dare say, struggling with their form of government, if they could see what we did here, because this is a basic part of how we choose our government in the U.S.
Thanks,
It always makes me proud to be part of these candidates' nights.
And thank you to the Athens County League of Women Voters.
Thank you.